This is The Sports Life.
Flip to Yaks. Illinois relents. Orange crushed. Title secured. Nothing shared. Michigan pumps the champagne and they roll the Illini. 84-70. Michigan, the outright Big Ten champions, and 17 league wins for the first time ever.
And welcome into the Sports Life. We'll team here along with Dalton Shetler, the Tones, and Brian Bush, the voice of the Wolverine basketball team. And what a season they have had. And as he said, they win this thing outright. And there's still some games to play, but I don't know about you, Dalton, but I don't think I realized really how good they were until this thing started rolling and you're going, wait a minute, these guys are really good.
Well, and they did announce themselves right away in November with 30 and 40-point wins over Gonzaga and everybody else around the way. But then eventually you're like, oh, there just is no slowing down and there doesn't seem to be a weakness. They're just going to roll to be Big Ten champs.
Well, and they did.
They did.
Well, as for our show, we have some interesting things, and one of them I think you'll enjoy is a little story about John Sautter. Now, he is not a great athlete. He didn't score 30 points in any games, but he does something very unique at Mackey Arena, and he's a good dude, and I think people will like the story.
That should be a lot of fun. Certainly looking forward to that. Also, we're going to talk with Kevin Pauga, who is an associate athletic director at Michigan State University, but has a pretty big hand and, of course, a pretty big head and brain when it comes to scheduling and all sorts of different data formulas for everything collegiate sports. But we're going to talk about how right now, there's been a real strategy and an intention around scheduling to boost TV ratings and why it's working in college basketball. But also, we're going to take a look on the women's side because now the regular season is in the rearview mirror. Can you believe it?
No.
It is March, and the Big Ten tournament is here for women's basketball. With that, we have the postseason awards, and we'll dive into that with co-host of the Dribble Drive podcast, Austin Render.
So I assume you have some sounds of the week?
Oh, we always have sounds of the week. Well, let's start things off with some excitement from over the weekend in Big Ten men's basketball. Northwestern and Oregon. It came down to the wire on Nick Martinelli bobblehead day there in Evanston. And what would you know? The game winner is scored by Nick Martinelli. He defeats the Ducks 63-62. Here's what it sounded like with the voice of the Northwestern Wildcats, Dave Bennett. And you'll get to hear from Nick Martinelli afterwards as he was on the Big Ten Network later talking about his bobblehead.
On the baseline. He's still looking. Gets it into Martinelli with 7, with 6. Nick spins in the paint. Goes to his left hand. Rattles around and in with 1.8. They have it on the rim forever. Simpkins, half-court shot. Good if it goes. No good. The Wildcats win. The Wildcats win. Nick Martinelli does it again on his bobblehead day.
I mean, honestly, I wish they made it a little more unrealistic. They really got my broken nose in there. You know, they got all my bad features in there. So shout out to them for, being pretty realistic with that. But, I could have used, a little bit of some more shinier features there. But, I mean, it's a blessing, It's pretty awesome to have bobblehead night. I remember when Ty had it last year. It was a good time.
Well, it's your own bobblehead day, and you make the winning basket. And, it's interesting. I'm assuming overall, all the games when they're played, he will be the leader in scoring in the Big Ten for the second straight season. And for the second straight season, I don't think he's going to be a first-team player.
Isn't that ridiculous?
I mean, that's how good some of these guys are.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
So the tiebreak is his team doesn't win as much, so the guys who may be as good, but they win more, they get to jump over him a little bit.
Well,
but
everybody's swimming in a pretty small pool, right? When you're talking about 18 teams and only so many slots going to different guys to be recognized, it's certainly a pretty big part of it.
Like I told you earlier, I think the second team All-Big Ten team is going to be so good. It's going to be like full of All-Americans.
That's true. That's pretty awesome. Well, you talk about somebody who's really good. It's somebody who certainly was really good back when they played. They were honored, actually, at Alaska Airlines Arena in Seattle, Washington. Of course, the Huskies now a part of the Big Ten Conference. that gives us the opportunity to celebrate some of the Huskies' history, and one of the most heralded of all time is Detlef Schrempf. He had his jersey number 22 retired there at Washington. Of course, he went on to play for the Seattle Supersonics, and I think everybody knows how great he was in the NBA. 2-time Sixth Player of the Year, multi-year All-Star. But this was him talking about being honored as well with his jersey heading up to the rafters.
See your name up there, it's kind of scary. So, who would have imagined that a skinny, shy kid from Leverkusen, Germany could come to the United States and one day have his jersey raised to the rafters at a place he fell in love with, right? I am very fortunate to share this moment with my family. We don't have many, but my family, my wife Mary, sons Alex and Michael, it's been quite a journey. Amazing.
It is amazing, and I just can't even imagine how he felt or how people like him have felt when something like that happens.
It's hard to really picture, isn't it? How do you really connect with that? But really cool that he gets to experience that. Somebody who scored just shy of 1,500 points in his Husky career when he laced up in Washington. To close out the Sounds of the Week, we're going to move to the Dean of Big Ten coaches and head coach Tom Izzo, because something a little bit rare actually around this Michigan State men's basketball program, as successful, as elite as it is, as much of a blue blood as it is, winning just south of the state border has been tricky at times in the state of Indiana. Honestly, it's been easier for Michigan State to win Big Ten titles or go to Final Fours than it has to sweep the state of Indiana, but they did that this last week, knocking off Purdue for the first time in 12 years at Mackey Arena, and then they close out the trip with a win at Assembly Hall. Here's what head coach Tom Izzo had to say, with sound coming courtesy of CBS, about winning the week against the state of Indiana.
I said the same thing at Purdue. God would have trouble winning at these two places. It's not easy places to play. These crowds are great. Purdue was unbelievable. And I was proud of my guys. We did what we needed to do early. We had some lapses defensively. That's a good team. That's a tournament team. They just got to win some games.
Think about that statement. They just got to win some games. Well, that's everybody. But, we make fun a little bit, but if anybody's ever been to Mackey Arena, I don't care who you root for, that place is absolutely amazing. And for the home team, it's fabulous. And then the Assembly Hall, Indiana, in the short prep for Michigan State. I don't care what year it is or whatever you're doing. If you can put back-to-back wins against those guys on the road, he even sounded happy.
I know he sure did. Well, and it's funny, too, because we talk some about this. And, of course, Will, you have plenty of experiences seeing some of these trips just south of the state border and what Michigan State has went through the years. Think about that statement. Michigan State has more Big Ten titles in the last decade, more Final Four appearances than sweeps in the state of Indiana. As ridiculous as that is to say, it's true. But how cool is that they knocked that off?
Robbie Hummel asked me before the game when the last time I remember Michigan State winning at Mackey. I said, I don't know. I was 5. So we're going to go from the fact that I had no remembrance of anything at a tender age to looking back at one of the really fine basketball seasons on the women's side. It's in the books. They're heading to postseason. I think you'll really enjoy the chat coming up.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Medicaid and CHIP offer free or low-cost health coverage for children and teens. Hospital and doctor visits, prescriptions, shots, and more are covered. That's peace of mind for parents if a child is sick or gets injured. And parents may now be eligible for Medicaid too, even if they've applied in the past. Enrollment is always open. Visit insurekidsnow.gov or call 1-877-KIDS-NOW. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
If you have diabetes, listen up. If you have insurance, you can qualify for a continuous glucose monitor. With a CGM, you can continuously track your levels and trends and spend more time in range, significantly lowering your A1C. More importantly, a CGM eliminates the one thing most people with diabetes hate: painful finger sticks. Order your new continuous glucose monitor today. If you use insulin and if you've seen your diabetes care provider within the last 6 months, you may qualify for your own CGM right now. We'll do all the insurance paperwork and deliver your new CGM at little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. Medicare and most insurances will cover your CGM, so don't wait. Have your insurance handy and call the Aptiva Medical CGM Health Hotline right now.
800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. 800-948-6912. That's 800-948-6912.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Roxanne Watson is on a mission.
Hello, how are you doing today?
She wants more people to register as organ, eye, and tissue donors.
Are you an organ donor? Yes, I am. Yay.
My goal is to sign up the most people in the United States.
What drives her? Roxanne's own life was saved through the gift of a heart transplant, made possible by an organ donor.
I decided that day that I was going to devote myself to the cause of organ donation and signing people up and honoring my donor by doing that.
Now she's back to health, and she's a powerful force helping to save lives every day through her work. Imagine what you can make possible by leaving behind the gift of life.
8 people can be helped with the major organs, and up to 50 people can be helped with a little bit of everything. And when you think about it that way, that you could help that many people, it's amazing. It really is.
Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov. A message from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Team in here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, auto owners insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you. Well, the women's basketball season, the regular season in the Big Ten, has come to a conclusion. And joining us now is Austin Render from Dribble Drive, the podcast. Austin, thanks for joining us. And we thought, before we talked about awards and maybe postseason, could you put a bow on this year the women have had and kind of let us know what you think about it?
Yeah, I think this has been probably the deepest season the Big Ten has ever seen. On the women's basketball side, there's a chance at potentially 7 schools hosting, most likely 6, but that's still 6 out of 16 hosting spots to the conference. And I say all of that to try and put into perspective the fact that UCLA ran the table and played 2 out of their 20 games within single digits. They blew everybody out. They were dominant in maybe the deepest year of Big Ten women's basketball. Hats off to UCLA, what they were able to do, but I'm sure the aspirations in LA are much higher than just winning the Big Ten. They have a Final Four national championship level team that is certainly going to be there, I think, when April rolls around. But just an incredible season, very deep, so many deserving people of these awards that just came out this week, and looking forward to see what happens this week in Indianapolis.
Well, I mean, you lay out that landscape of how good the Big Ten is, and UCLA just kind of didn't blink, staring at the barrel of it. I mean, you mentioned the single-digit games. 13 of the 18 unbeaten wins that UCLA strung together were by 20 or more points. I mean, they just dominated this thing, and kind of rightfully so. They dominate the postseason awards that get announced by the Big Ten Conference. The coach of the year ends up being head coach Corey Close. Austin, you and I have talked about, I think there are a couple other candidates. I think you can look to Iowa. I think you can look to Minnesota. But at the end of the day, the standard and the expectation was put in a ridiculous spot, in an impossible spot, and somehow they still achieved it.
Yeah, so I think there's a balancing line here, because I don't like typically, say off the top, I voted for Corey Close for Coach of the Year. I don't like when we just give it to the person who wins the league. But this what UCLA did and what I was just talking about with how deep this league was and how much better, how much separation there is from UCLA to the next crop of teams, which are still top 10, top 15 teams in the country. What UCLA has done to separate themselves from that crop deserves the credit that Corey Close is getting. And look, that this is, you can say all this, and you can also say Jan Jansen and Don Plitzowite and what they did at Iowa and Minnesota, what KBA, Kim Barnes-Rico at Michigan, Kevin McGuff at Ohio State. There's a lot of coaches that have done really good things this season. But for me, like, yeah, you said it, the expectation for UCLA was so high to begin with, and they not only met it, but I think they exceeded it. And now we all believe that this UCLA team this season is more equipped to win the national title than last season, where they won the Big Ten tournament and went to the Final Four. And a lot of that is because of what Corey Close has done. And there's several layers to it. It's talent accumulation, it's talent retention, keeping this core group together coming into this season, and then losing her bench to the portal and figuring out kind of how to piece around that with Sienna Betts and Charlize Ledger-Walker coming back. And then obviously her coaching style and just the way that they dominate teams, the way they can beat you from so many different ways. It's a well put together roster. It's a really close knit team, and it's a coaching Corey Close that deserves to be the Big Ten Coach of the Year.
Well, to round out the individual awards, and this ended up being consensus between the coaches and media, the sixth player of the year, also a Bruin, that being Angela Dugalich. The defensive player of the year, also a Bruin, Lauren Betts. And your player of the year, also a Bruin. Lauren Betts wins that one as well. Freshman of the Year is the lone non-Bruin individual award in the Big Ten. It was Jazzy Davidson from USC, but your observations throughout all of those award selections, I know the Player of the Year race was really heating up between Lauren Betts and Jelani Cambridge.
Yeah, that's the one that I have trouble with, and I'm having trouble even trying to like articulate my thoughts on that without sounding like I'm anti-Lauren Betts, because I'm not. She's a generational talent. She's deserving of the accolades she's getting. What she has done with this UCLA team is helped transform them. She's pretty much unguardable inside. But what Jelani Cambridge did this season, you're setting a dangerous precedent of like what has to be done to overcome the preseason Player of the Year. Jelani Cambridge in conference play, which in my opinion should matter more than your overall stats. And I think that's something that I have issues with people in their voting, is we don't look at conference only stats. In conference only, Jelani Cambridge is averaging 26.4 points per game, over 50% from the floor, 46% from three, 5.5 rebounds, 5 assists a game. To me, that is a dominant stat line. She is a game-changing player for Ohio State. The ball is in her hands all the time. And so that's the one where I'm like, okay, I understand like Lauren Betts had a good year and her stats aren't great because she doesn't have to play as much as maybe Jelani. But to me, it's like, I don't see it. I see more so of Jelani being that player that stood out to me among a really talented crop. It'll be fun next year to see Juju come back and Jazzy Davidson and Jelani Cambridge kind of duke it out. Maybe even Keomi McMillan next season as well, to seeing some of these guards really go after it for that. Nothing else. I mean, Lauren Betts, Defensive Player of the Year, it's hard to argue. A lot of what she does defensively, she obviously has 2 blocks a game, but she alters shots, she alters game plans. Just her presence in the paint does a lot to change what an offense is doing. So I don't have an issue with that. I think that race was as wide open as any in the conference this year. I think Brooke Corrals-Daniels out of Michigan, Kennedy Cambridge out of Ohio State certainly deserved a look as well. Minnesota surprisingly not getting a player on the All Big Ten or on the All Freshman team, All Defensive team. I don't remember if it was the media or the coaches, but they were one of the best, if not the best defensive team in the Big Ten. They just did it as a unit. But no, I didn't have any issues with that. I didn't have any issues with Angela Dugalich. She's a WNBA future player coming off the bench for UCLA. Just shows you how much how much they had to work with there in Hollywood.
And to cap off your point, it was the media that left off the Gophers from the All Big Ten defensive team in these award selections. I'm going to throw a hodgepodge at you here, Austin. One is going to open the door for your own little soliloquy, if you would like to go ahead and entertain everybody with, because besides being a part of the Dribble Drive podcast, Austin Render is the voice of Indiana women's basketball, and I know you feel scorned about a certain thing, but overall, I want to talk about the system this year, too, because the Big Ten did something different on the women's side. There were 10 first-team members, 10 second-team members, 5 third-team members. So 25 players are recognized as all Big Ten this year. We've talked a lot before that how do you appropriately recognize an award, an 18-team league with this many good players? I thought the conference took a big step in the right direction. I thought it was overwhelming, but I think you're getting closer to being accurate. But what did you take away from the new system?
Totally agree with you. I thought it was a great step in the right direction for 25 players in an 18-team league to be recognized in some form or fashion with all Big Ten, and then 5 more in the honorable mention. I also think it was important to cut the honorable mention off. I think at times the honorable mention was, I think, anybody who received at least 2 votes, and that list got a little bit long. All it took was your one person with an affiliation to your school and then maybe one other person, and you got on that list. So I like what they did. Pretty much 30 people getting honored on both sides. I'll plug the podcast and the Dribble Drive and say, if you want to hear my full rant on Shea Chesky not making first team, you can go there. I have real issues with a player averaging 23 a game and a part of the 50, 40, 90 club. Only the second player ever in women's basketball history to accomplish those numbers. Have a hard time leaving her off the first team. So, and to know, like, if it was the media, it's one thing. Maybe they don't watch enough games, but to know it was the coaches that coach and game plan against her and watch her on film and watch her in person, that's just shocking to me to think that group of coaches, not all 18 of them, but enough of them, left her off their first team. That's shocking to me. So that was disappointing. Other than that, there wasn't a ton that stood out. I was surprised the coaches left Grace Sullivan off their all Big Ten teams as well. I believe she was honorable mention on the coaches side, maybe third team. But she was phenomenal, at least in the game that I got my eyes on her in person when they came to Bloomington. So that was another one that was a little bit surprising me. Keone McMiller as well, falling down that list despite what she did in February. So I think there's a theme here, Dalton, that winning matters in these awards. And I get that to a certain extent. I don't love it when it comes to, like, I think I can get that a little bit in the first team in the upper echelon, but I think if somebody like Shea does what she does, and then I think the second team is where people like Keone McMiller and Grace Sullivan should be honored for the seasons that they did. Despite their teams not making the Big Ten tournament, they still had historical seasons, and for that to be missed by the coaches was a little surprising to me. I feel like we put a little bit too much weight into winning, and I get that winning is important, but there should be some honoring of these people, especially now that we have 25 spots. I feel like we can throw some love to some of these players on teams that maybe they struggle, but maybe it wasn't Grace Sullivan's fault. Grace Sullivan had a terrific season, deserves to get that highlight.
Well, Austin, before you let you go real quick, besides UCLA, any other Big Ten have a shot at winning the national championship?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say national championship, no. I think with the right draw, I still like Michigan's upside to make a run to the Final Four. I think Iowa, Minnesota, Ohio State, Maryland, Michigan State can be second weekend teams. I think that Michigan has the upside to get to a Final Four, and I think UCLA is the one team in the Big Ten that has the ability to cut down the nets and win the national title.
Well, as always, it was a good chat, Austin. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
Some of the thoughts of Austin Render from Dribble Drive, the podcast. Well, he's got some opinions, and he may not be wrong on some of them. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about scheduling. That's always a fun topic in just a moment.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender?
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto Owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30,000. Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. 800-562-2407. That's 800-562-2407. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path, because when you talk, they hear you. Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
Here's a real-life story that affects 50% of all of us out there. It's called divorce. If you've gotten divorced and now you're struggling to pay your bills and your credit card debts are completely out of control, you need to call this special debt relief hotline right now. We help people with all kinds of money problems caused by different life challenges, a divorce, a job loss, even heavy medical bills. All these life events can sometimes financially stress you out and cause you to get out of control. We help people get their lives back by showing them ways to consolidate and reduce their debt, in some cases for a fraction of what they owe. If your credit card balances are more than $10,000, call us and learn how to reduce your credit card bills and monthly payments now. Here's our number.
Paid for by Debt.com. Call now, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584, 800-810-1584. That's 800-810-1584.
And welcome back for more of The Sports Life. Will Team here along with Dalton Shetler. And don't forget, Auto Owners Insurance, simple human sense. Ask your independent agent if Auto Owners makes sense for you. Scheduling. Well, that's a big part of what's going on in the world of intercollegiate athletics. And joining us now is Kevin Pauga, Michigan State Associate Athletic Director, who's involved in the scheduling of Big Ten activities. Well, Kevin, thanks for joining us. And the scheduling has been very interesting this year, and the ratings have been up. So can you talk a little bit about how the scheduling has maybe boosted those numbers?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Will, and Dalton, good to be with you as well. There's a couple dynamics that are going on, and part of it is how Nielsen is measuring out-of-home viewership. There's some more sophisticated methodologies that have been coming into play here over the last year or so. And so what we've been seeing across the board is those methodologies have been part of the reason why across all sports programming we're seeing rises in terms of viewership and in terms of ratings. But to your point, that's not everything to do with the increases. Even if we were to use the old methodology, there's still some increases, and a lot of it has to do with strategic scheduling, strategic lead-ins. How do you, for instance, from a Michigan State perspective, On Thanksgiving Day, the Lions are playing the early window on Fox against Green Bay. You put a Michigan State basketball game on right after a Detroit Lions football game, you've got a lead in and lead out audience there that you're capturing. You're also taking NFL games in general. The NFL does a phenomenal job in terms of viewership and event style programming to be able to use some of those lead outs to be able to capitalize on folks that are already watching a certain channel.
Well, Kevin, you brought up maybe the crown jewel so far this season when it comes to television ratings, Thanksgiving Day. And Michigan State played North Carolina. That had 6.5 million viewers. That's the second biggest highly rated game this season in college men's basketball. The first one also was Thanksgiving Day later on that night, Duke and Arkansas. That one tipped at 8:15 that night. That had 6.8 million viewers. What is it about? I mean, you talked about the NFL lead in, lead out, but for college basketball to be able to claim such an audience in two different games, how did that happen?
It's the NFL lead in, but the way that television ratings are measured is they're typically measured in 15-minute increments. And so the ability for both of those games to be able to sustain the audience well after the NFL game was over. Frankly, there were NFL games going head-to-head with both games on different networks. And so the ability to be able to certainly take that lead in but retain a relevant part of that audience is still a meaningful story.
So, Kevin, also we've seen some major high-profile games, non-conference, played in the middle of a conference schedule. And in our universe, we'll talk about Michigan Duke. Mm-hmm. Is that a good thing?
I don't think that it's a good or bad thing. I think that at the end of the day, what you're trying to do is you're trying to create compelling matchups at meaningful times of the season. And that can mean a lot of different things. But Duke, Michigan, at that time of the season, both were ranked in the top 3, I believe, in the AP poll. That is a meaningful game. That is a big time game. That is an event. And so that is must-see programming, whether it's scheduled in February or, frankly, whether it's scheduled in December. So the more willingness that we get from coaches, from administrators, from schools to play big-time games, the better. And so what fans are saying is that there's tonnage programming around their specific team that they're rooting for, but past that, they want to see big-time games. They want to see big-time events. They want to see compelling matchups between top-level games top-level teams that ultimately have some meaning.
Well, and of course, I mean, you can't really predict how the teams are going to do when they go to play, but it's rather fortuitous that Michigan and Duke had such great seasons where they're both top 3 teams when they meet. But I thought one of the interesting things, too, besides it playing out where it's the 3rd highest rated game in men's college basketball this year in terms of TV ratings, all the different sound bites you had from John Shire and also from Dusty May about how this will help prepare them for the NCAA tournament, it felt like you had real buy-in from the programs. Do you think between that and the positive TV ratings that this is maybe a trend that we should get used to in the future?
So 25 years ago, this was actually something that was very common in January, February, and even before that when you had smaller conferences, when like the ACC, when they were 8 or 9 team conference, they were playing 14 or 16 conference games back in the 80s and 90s. And so you'd regularly schedule non-conference games on weekends, made for TV games around your conference schedule. And so it's kind of gone away as the volume of conference games has increased. Teams are playing 18, 20 conference games. And frankly, while there's a compelling reason to do it for NCAA tournament pushes and familiarity and all that, you do have to be mindful of what it does to the compression of your conference schedule as well. So you're taking a couple days out of that window, and you've got to be intentional in terms of how that plays out. So I think that there's sound arguments both ways. I don't think that either way is wrong, but certainly the more that we can do to put college basketball at the forefront, to be able to create things like this, like the Michigan Duke game was great for both teams. It was great for the game. It was great for just fans looking for something to watch, or if you were in the DC area for looking for something to do.
Well, and it's interesting, too, Kevin, because one of the first thoughts I had about it is, I mean, you talked about how on Thanksgiving you can create kind of a symbiotic relationship, right, between college basketball and the NFL with lead-ins, lead-outs. But here, when Duke and Michigan meet, there is no football. So the casual sports fan that's kind of looking for the next thing and that just jumps into March Madness when it comes around, this was a really good starting point and a point to jump into the water for them. Do you think that maybe that's a part of it too? They don't have as much maybe competition with the very biggest, highly rated sports there are.
So yes, but I would add to that while you don't have an NFL lead-in, there was also intentionality in terms of which weekend was chosen for that matchup. That it was that it was not on Super Bowl weekend, that it was distanced from the NFL playoffs, so that it that in some ways it created that standalone. Like even relative to the Olympics, like not wanting to go head to head with that, like all of those details, and like even when we're just building schedules in general, like we've got where the AFC NFC championship games are going. We know where the Olympic ceremonies are going to be on NBC. We know where all these different things are, so that way you try not to step on events that are tentpole events throughout the sports calendar.
It feels, Kevin, like the back end of the Big Ten basketball schedule this year, conference-wise, has been really loaded up. Big games coming down the stretch. Football's over. College basketball's hitting its hot moment. Is that by design?
It is, and I'm not sure that I don't think this is the first year that has occurred, but depending on the conference, the Big Ten, the Big 12, we've seen a lot of compelling matchups from the Big 12 on Big Monday. There is intentionality that television typically thinks that their best windows are later in the season, and they want to try and put some of the best games in the best windows. So that is not by accident, but you certainly want to be able to balance other parameters of the schedule, and you don't want to leave January without compelling programming as well. So I think in general it's more about leaning towards key matchups late in the season, and not all of them, but there's certainly a lean towards trying to create compelling programming, compelling storylines as the season progresses.
Final thought, Kevin. There's always a discussion about, in the case of the Big Ten, 18 teams, 20 games in the conference. And there's always the question about travel. The schedule isn't quite balanced right. Some guys get a better break than the other. As you've started to work through this now in the second season, is there a way to balance it out and make it more fair for everybody? Or is that even possible?
It's not possible. Everybody's going to have something in their schedule, whether it's something that's created by television, something created by a facility conflict. Everybody's going to have something that they may not like. But there's other variables that you can't even attempt to control for in a schedule. Like I'm thinking in a football schedule that let's say a quarterback gets hurt and misses a week, and it might just happen to be the week that you're playing somebody or an injury, or to your point on travel, like there's going to be ebbs and flows through anybody's schedules as the season progresses, that you're not going to be able to even define what is fair, let alone accomplish it. And so certainly in the moment, it's easy to identify that there's going to be advantages, disadvantages. What you're trying to do is you're trying to be able to minimize actual schedule losses, is what I would refer to them as, where you're just set up at such a disadvantage to your opponent in a certain game that you are at a legitimate competitive disadvantage, whether that's from travel, from prep time, whatever it may be. Those are what you're trying to flush out of the schedule, so that at the end of the day, whether you're on the field, on the court, the two teams that are competing in that matchup are in as fair a position as possible.
Well, Kevin, we appreciate it as always. I'm just wondering, when you're like at an airport and somebody goes, "That's the guy that does the schedule," do you run for cover? What do you do?
I just lay low, Will.
Kevin, I sure appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Will.
Kevin Pauga, a guy in charge of the impossible dream. He's got a task, and nobody's happy when he's done, no matter how well he does it. Well, when we come back with more of the Sports Life, we're going to talk about a fella who kind of fell into a very unique situation when it comes to hosting college basketball. It's all coming up in just a moment.
So, got one for you, boss.
Oh, yeah?
What's black, white, and dented all over?
I give up.
The company truck. I know, but thanks to our agent, we've already submitted an insurance claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Lucky for you, that's simple human sense.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Do you hear that? That's the sound of uncertainty lurking under your hood. You know the feeling. I know I do. That sudden sinking sensation when you see a check engine light or your car unexpectedly breaks down and you're faced with sky-high repair bills. It's time to shield against unexpected repairs with CarShield. CarShield is America's most trusted auto protection company and has an A rating with the Better Business Bureau. Don't let the fear of a breakdown keep you up at night. Trust the Shield, CarShield, and say goodbye to terrifying repair bills and hello to peace of mind. Your plan also comes with 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental car options, and so much more. Don't wait till it's too late. Call CarShield now before a breakdown. Protect your wallet. Protect your car with CarShield. Get our best protection ever. Call now. You'll thank me later. 800-965-1292. 800-965-1292. That's 800-965-1292.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is the Sports Life.
Did you receive a call or message that mentioned Social Security and demanded immediate action? Did the caller know your Social Security number or other personal information and tell you that your Social Security number had been used in connection with a crime? Did you feel worried that your Social Security number might be suspended, your bank account might be frozen or seized, or you could be arrested? That is not the Social Security Administration. Social Security will not threaten you, demand your personal information, or instant payment, email or text you pictures or documents, or use a real government official's name to gain your trust. Social Security does not accept payments by gift card, prepaid debit card, internet currency, or by mailing cash. Criminals use these forms of payment because they are hard to trace. Do not be fooled. Hang up. Ignore them. Report this criminal activity to the Social Security Administration Office of the Inspector General at oig.ssa.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. Will Teeman here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, in 1971, fresh off of earning a degree from Southern Illinois and an Army tour, John Sautter landed in West Lafayette, Indiana as the new assistant manager of Wiley Residence Hall. By 1996, he had become a Purdue vice president, overseeing the university residences, food stores, the Purdue Memorial Union, the Union Club Hotel, Boiler Television, the Elliott Hall of Music and Hall of Music Production, the Loeb Playhouse, Fowler Hall, and the Slater Center for Performing Arts, which I think redefines the word impressive. Then he would move on to become a driving force within the Purdue Alumni Association before he called it a career after 50 years. But this amazing administrative run at Purdue is not why John Sautter is this week's cover story. You see, back in 1981, he was offered an opportunity that on the surface seemed to have little to do with his then day-to-day duties at Purdue. The job title was visiting team host.
Back in around 1980, 81 or so, I'm a young administrator, working my way up, looking for a variety of opportunities wherever I can. And at the time, I was giving talks on leadership and motivation to fraternities, sororities, housing groups, community school systems, teacher groups, anybody I could find. And a friend of mine who had the job said, you ought to think about doing this job because you could see leadership and motivation in real time. And I think you could use some of those examples in the speeches that you give. And he was leaving in 81. He said it's a little time intensive. It takes about 5 hours every game. I had a young family at the time. But again, looking for exposure. So I said, I think I'll give that a shot. I think I'll give it a try, maybe for a few years. And what I found was that it was so interesting meeting these different personalities and, in fact, seeing leadership and motivation and all the dynamics involved behind the scenes. I've just continued doing it, and 44 years later, I'm still enjoying it.
John performs his visiting team host duties in the home of Purdue basketball, Mackey Arena, named after his legendary athletic director of 29 years, Guy Red Mackey, who, by the way, came up with the idea for this position in the first place.
Actually, it was started by Guy Red Mackey back in the 50s, actually when the team played in Lambert Fieldhouse. And the concept he came up with is that he wanted an adult to be able to take care of the visiting team. He didn't want a student manager to kind of be a gopher and just do what he was told to do, but he wanted somebody a little bit more mature to greet the coach, the players, the team personnel, visiting guests, dignitaries, athletic director, sometimes even the university president would come along. So he created the position of the visiting team host, and it's been there ever since.
Well, now that we know who created the position of visiting team host and why, and how John Sautter became the host, it's now time to talk about the actual task of the position.
Well, even before the team arrives, I have a letter I send to all coaches prior to, about 2 weeks before the game. I still use letters. One year I tried to use emails, trying to be a little bit more tech savvy. But a lot of coaches won't share their emails, and you have to go through somebody else. And letters have become pretty unique. So I still send a letter 2 weeks in advance to returning coaches. It's brief. To brand new coaches, I explain what I'll be doing once they arrive. During the game, I sit right behind the bench in case some needs would come up. We're not allowed to cheer where we sit, but we sit immediately behind the bench. And in case something comes up during the game, actually, there's 2 coaches that would not let us sit behind the bench. One was Dean Smith from North Carolina. He turns around and saw me and said, "John, I'm sorry, I'm superstitious. I can't have you sit this close." And so that was fine. The other one is Bob Knight. In about 1987 or so, there was a fan sitting next to me who normally isn't there, a Purdue fan, who just got too vocal. And he turned around and, in no uncertain terms, asked us to leave. I never sat behind the Indiana bench after that.
Since 1981, John has visited with many visiting coaches and no doubt has a few favorites.
I think it's well over 300 coaches, close to 70 alone in the Big Ten. Because the unique thing about the Big Ten, I think 6 of the teams have had 7 coaches in the time that I've been hosting. And Michigan State and Purdue being the exceptions, we've only had 2. So it's well over 300. And just to name a few of those coaches, it's Bob Knight and Judd Heathcote, Jim Dutcher, Lute Olson, I go back that far, Bo Ryan, Tom Izzo, of course, Lou Henson, and then nationally, Mike Krzyzewski, Dean Smith, John Calipari, Danny Crum, Ray Meyer, and on the list goes. One of my favorites was Judd Heathcote. Judd, very personable, great sense of humor. And I mentioned the letters that I used to send. He would write back very, very humorous letters. And I've got 4 3-ring notebooks full of all the letters I've received from these different coaches. But Judd was just kind of fun to be around. just a great guy. Homer Drew from Valpo. I liked him a lot. Very personable, did not take himself seriously, as most coaches at this level don't at this point. But he was always nice, well aware of the team and me and what's going on, and had interesting motivational techniques, for his team. And so those were two that jumped out. Currently, I'd say probably Tom Izzo is one of my favorites. Again, a friendly guy, nice to be around. Those would be the folks that come to mind.
Well, after working some 600 games and counting at Purdue's Mackey Arena over a span of some 44 seasons, this is what John Sautter believes he will take away from the task of being the visiting team host.
I think I'm going to take away really a feeling of pride in terms of mission accomplished. When I was the vice president for housing and food services, we ran a first-class operation. We were recognized nationally for a lot of things we did. Just provided a great student experience at a world-class, first-class university. And then I felt myself in this role, I kind of wanted to do that same thing. As be as helpful as possible, do whatever we possibly could, even with the visiting team coming in, to make that experience as good as possible, even with some significant rivals. And I guess I take away a good feeling that over the years we've done that, and we've done it in good style. And I think the thanks that I usually get from a lot of the coaches it kind of confirms that.
Fun journey with John Sautter at Purdue University. Well, when we come back with more of the sports life, our parting shots in just a moment.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Dad. Did you get a new haircut or something? A new shirt? You're looking good.
What happened?
A little fender bender.
How little?
A few days in the shop little. But thanks to Mom and our agent, we've already submitted a claim and can track the status right from the app. Auto owners pays what they owe without any hassle.
Sounds like simple human sense.
I'm fine, by the way.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna ask.
Ask your independent agent if auto owners make sense for you.
Everything is expensive right now. Gas, food, you name it. You're spending more, you are making the same or less money. So, what do? You rack up credit card debt, that's what you do. It's not your fault. It's the economy. And guess what? If you rack up too much credit card debt like some of us, you can't pay your bills. Then the credit card companies, as nice as they are, start hounding you for money. Then you start your downward spiral. A smart thing for you to do is to call the Zero Debt. They can help you consolidate all your credit card bills into one affordable payment. Millions of people have done it. It works to make you debt-free. Make this free call right now. It costs you nothing to learn more.
800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. 800-298-9093. That's 800-298-9093.
We are strong, we are resilient, and we will get through this together. But these are stressful times, and it's important to also practice good self-care. It's normal to feel overwhelmed, anxious, or afraid, but there is hope. Reach out to someone, connect with your friends, stay in touch with your community, and know that you are not alone. Learn more at wearebroadcasters.com/hope. Furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters and this station.
We'll be back with more in a moment. This is The Sports Life.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
I'm Naheem Hines, professional football player. No matter the challenges I face every day in the NFL, my mom is always there for me. despite her own struggles with muscular dystrophy. And MDA is there for my mom. At their 150 care centers across the U.S., MDA is the leading organization in research and care for kids and adults with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and related neuromuscular diseases. Join me and learn more at helpmda.org today. Thank you.
And welcome back for more of the Sports Life. We'll team in here along with Dalton Shetler. Well, we've had a fun show, hit on a bunch of topics, but now it is time to move on to the big topics. The parting shots.
That's absolutely right. And by the way, if you missed any of that from earlier in the show, make sure you give us a follow at Sports Life Now on Twitter or X. That's again at Sports Life Now. We'll have everything posted there. But for my parting shot, I want to go back to the ice in East Lansing. Michigan State, the number one team in the country, held on against Ohio State to split the series. It took overtime and then some. Of course, there's a shootout after overtime. Michigan State and Ohio State, it went 13 rounds. That's the longest in Big Ten hockey history. It's the third longest in Division I history of how many rounds of a shootout there's been. Here's what the final of it sounded like with the Spartan goal and the Spartan stop to win it, called by Rob Woodward and Scott Moore.
Come on, Trey. Come on, Trey.
Strachey picks it up, goes to the right, back into the zone, in between the circles, tries the backhand, no good. The Spartans get the extra point in 13 rounds of the shootout. The final score is a 2-2 tie, but the Spartans get the shootout 3-0.
So there you have it, history at Mackey Arena, and might be that extra point, as Scott Moore said, a pretty critical one in this Big Ten title race.
It's huge. It's huge. Well, the journey from school to an occupation sometimes is interesting. I had a chance to catch up with Kenny Johnson, an IU assistant coach for men's basketball. Okay, Dalton. He went to the University of Maryland. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what his degree is in: molecular biology and genetics. His first job out of college was he was a protein chemist, molecular biologist. So when I'm talking to Kenny, I go, how in the world did you go from that to coaching? And here's what he said.
You know, I was doing that work by day, and by night I was coaching high school basketball in the winters, and then AAU basketball in the spring and the summer. And what happened is, you know, the more you're coaching, the competitive side kicks in. We were having success. We were winning championships. And when you win championships, a byproduct is your players are starting to get scholarships. And just the joy that I saw in being able to help people not have to repay student loans, it led to me becoming it's like a passion project almost, to try to help as many people as I can make it to that point. You know, I love the development piece of it. And I think I kind of operate like a scientist in the sense of, you know, development. You try something, you see how it works, you repeat it over and over and over again. You know, you win a game a certain way, you want to repeat that. You lose a game, you get right back to that lab. You know, as they say, you try to experiment and tinker here and there and try to figure out ways to make things better.
Kenny Johnson, Indiana University men's assistant basketball coach. So Dalton, if this coaching thing doesn't work out, he's got something to fall back on.
I was going to say, I think things will work out for Kenny Johnson no matter what.
I think he's okay. Well, with that's a wrap for our show. Appreciate everybody tuning in. And we should also note that you can find us wherever you find your podcasts, like SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple. And make sure to check us out and hit subscribe. And as always, thanks to the Big Ten Network. The Sports Life is produced by Dalton Shetler, and our executive producer is Wendy Hart. So on behalf of Dalton, I'm Will Tiemann, and thanks for your time.